We're Charlie and Leanne, a couple from California who left our cushy suburban life to spend the next several years cruising around the Pacific Ocean on our boat, Juliet. And our little dog, too. In our last episode, we sailed from Isla Partida to San Evaristo. We bought some fish on the beach, had a beer at a beach palapa, saw a shipwreck, and experienced the most spectacular rainbow in the history of rainbows. In this episode, we get more fish, meet more cruisers at the charming little beach palapa, have a boat party, and then we weigh anchor and sail to Los Gatos, where we explore the bizarre rock formations and get in some amazing snorkeling. Yep, we're still in San Evaristo. On this day, we managed to catch a fishing panga just as it came ashore and bought a nice-sized fish. Here's Bubba standing guard over my fish. Let's get a look at this thing. That is a beautiful fish. I'm gonna get some nice fillets off that thing. I saw the panga coming in. Another one just came in fact. There's another one. And yeah, just like that, I walked up to him and just asked him, got any fish for sale or vendes pescado? And he sold it to me. He says it's primero eating, so, and I'm trying to fillet it. I got the first fillet. Check out that beautiful fillet. I'm still new with this whole fillet thing, so I'm pretty awkward with it, but that is a gorgeous fillet, and that is going to be a beautiful, delicious dinner. Our new filleting table is in a bit of an awkward position, but I'm trying to do it so I don't get too much guts and stuff on the boat. Everything goes over, so that's nice, and it's just kind of awkward, but I'm working it out, so now I'm trying the second one. Let's see, this way. See how I do. This fish was so much better than the last one. I wrapped it in foil along with some prosecco, garlic, lemons, onions, and peppers and baked it. It was tender, flaky, and really yummy. After sleeping off our fish dinner, we wandered back over to the taco palapa, where we met a few more cruisers who were on the same path as us. We'd end up buddy boating with this group for the next couple of weeks. I can't overstate how absolutely charming this palapa is. It's adorned with shells decorated by boats that have visited over the years, so you can see the history here. We even found a shell from a boat we know from La Paz that had visited a couple years ago. This is from Ciao Bella, another Mason 44 like ours. We met this couple in La Paz and they gave us a tour of their boat. More on that later. The interior is filled with random shells, streamers, and Lord knows what else, all creating an unforgettable atmosphere of beachy leisure. And the staff is super friendly, and the food is fresh and delicious. Basically, this is everything I'd ever imagined from a beach palapa. Of course, we had to put our own shell up. Here's our shell, along with the shells of two of our buddy boats, Tranquila and Red Shoes. Bubba liked this palapa too, as he made some doggy friends. We still had a whole other fish fillet to use up, so here I am making a fish curry out of it. Oh, and notice that metal splash guard behind the stove? We got that idea from the owners of Ciao Bella, the other Mason 44. The wooden cabinet doors behind the stove are always getting splattered and are hard to keep clean, so they got a custom splash guard. So Charlie did the same thing. He got this made right before we left La Paz. It hangs on hooks that he installed, and it's a great way to keep our galley more tidy. One of the things I've heard over and over from cruisers is that the best part of cruising is the people you meet from other boats. Now I know what they mean. We and a few others in the anchorage were invited by Richard and Tracy, the owners of Delfina, to come aboard for an appetizer party. I brought my fish curry and others brought finger foods. Tracy made pina coladas, and the conversation flowed along the usual lines: weather, boat projects, weather, boat maintenance, and weather. The weather was a particularly important topic, as we were hanging out in San Evaristo to wait out a system that had brought rain and high winds. Fortunately, this is a well-protected anchorage, and none of us dragged. And to top it off, we had yet another eye-popping sunset. I know, another sunset. Just a short hike back from the main village of San Evaristo are the salt flats, which are still active and producing salt. Charlie still can't hike because of his foot, so I went with Susan and Stephen from Tranquila. I discovered Stephen is great to have around, as he speaks perfect Spanish.
This is a commemorative plaque to the building of the road. So it says Highway San Juan de la Costa, which must be where it goes, to San Evaristo here. With this date, December 1983, began the service of the road of the integral development of the zone of high potential mining, tourism, and fishing. This construction was participated with the federal government, the government of the state, and the town of La Paz. So the road's been here quite a while. It's been here 37 years.
Wow.
And it's really helped develop this area.
A couple of families live here and apparently run the salt harvesting operation. At this point, we'd reached the ocean again, and here's the pond where they let the water in. This pond then drains into the flats, where the water dries and they harvest the salt. The next morning, the weather finally improved, and so we weighed anchor at sunrise and set sail for Los Gatos. We sailed past the rocks where we'd seen a catamaran run aground, and then Charlie took to his new favorite spot on the boat. And Bubba took watch at the helm. Under a rather cloudy sky, once again we were treated to the vision of the mountains rising straight up out of the sea. A very close-knit pod of dolphins that we're coming up on here. Pretty small pod, but there's a bunch of them very close together, not spread out like we usually see them. And unlike dolphins that we run into in the California waters, these ones seem to have no interest in us whatsoever. Usually when we get this close to a pod of dolphins in California, they'll come up to our boat and, oh look, one's leaping. Anyway, they'll usually come up to our boat and want to race the bow. I have to look in the book and see, oh, here comes some, here they come. They are unusual looking. Oh my God, look at that. Yep, they're gonna race the bow. Nope, off they go. Interest was short-lived. Puerto Los Gatos is a tiny anchorage on the peninsula with absolutely nothing here but the weirdest rock formations in the most vivid red we'd seen yet. We dropped anchor in mid-afternoon and took a look around and realized we were the only boat here. And we also realized we were in a very special and unusual place. So down went the dinghy and off we zoomed ashore. And the first order of business on any new shore is letting Bubba stretch out his legs. There's Bubba.
So I'm glad we decided to stop off here at Los Gatos. It's a nice little cove. We're the only boat here, and it's got very interesting geology here. The red rocks on this side, and then the Sierra Giganta Mountains over there. And then you've got these very ragged toothed mountains on the other side. So it's really very interesting. It's got a big beach, very secluded. You can let Bubba run around. Anyway, this will break up our trip over to Agua Verde and then Puerto Escondido, which is coming up.
This is definitely some of the most dramatic scenery we've seen on this trip. We're debating whether this is all caused by a lava flow with erosion, or just water and wind erosion, but it's just these waves and waves of bright red rocks. They're really spectacular. I'm really glad we came here. The only structure at this remote anchorage is this rustic pavilion, which apparently is used by campers and kayakers on tour of the area. There's even a little makeshift shower. That night we did see some kayakers making camp here.
There's Leanne coming back from her snorkeling adventure over at the reef.
I saw the biggest scorpion fish I've ever seen in my life! And I'm pretty sure I got him on camera.
Cool.
Yeah. another sunset. We just never get tired of them. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for a real treat. We leave Los Gatos at sunrise and power over to Agua Verde, where we discover another charming beach palapa and hang out with the cruisers with whom we've been buddy boating since Partida. We experience some unpredicted bad weather and then visit a goat dairy. We meet the owner and get to see how he makes his cheese, and then we buy some.